I was reflecting on life from my own private island when I remembered that a long time ago I made a comic strip. And this comic strip was called Bruce Outback. I created it with my good friend James Bamfield. And I thought it would be a great time to get back into the old 3D modeling stuff, get some modeling clay out and make a version of this character in 3D, because I've not done that for a long time. So to make this, I'm going to use some Milliput, more on that later. Got some modelling tools, got some wire, I've got my pliers and some tin foil, and here we go. So I bought this wire from a reputable online source somewhere. It's been a while, I've forgotten where. As you can see, it's quite malleable, it's not particularly strong wire, but all I'm going to do with this is just build a skeleton for the figure itself. So once I've got the skeleton made and assembled, it's really kind of basic. There's no kind of like armature to this really. There's no sort of joints or anything like that. It's purely just a reasonably solid base to build everything else off. But once I've got this all put together, the next step is to just cover that in aluminium foil, just to kind of bulk out the whole thing. And once I've got that done, then we can start to mold over the top of it. Now, some people would see this as a waste of Bako, the foil, but the foil is actually really useful, because if I had started using clay at this point, this small figure would actually be really, really heavy, because it would be, it would have quite a lot of mass to it. So using this aluminium foil just to kind of bulk up that skeleton initially means that you're using less clay, means it'll take a little bit less time to set, and it won't be quite so unwieldy, and it won't be quite so heavy either. So it's definitely a good idea to use something inside the figure to, basically bulk it out a little bit. So onto the Milliput. Now, Milliput is pretty cool. I've not used it before, but it's a two-part epoxy. So as you can see here, there's two distinct bits of it, and on their own, these two bits won't do anything at all. They'll just be quite malleable. They'd be just like plasticine, but they won't actually form or set or anything like that. So in order to get this into a clay that will eventually set over time, you've got to mix up the two parts for ages, and then after you've mixed it all up and given it a proper good kneading and a good thorough seeing too, you've then got a decent amount of clay to start moulding onto things. Now you'll notice here I've not built enough to cover the entire figure in one go, mainly because this stuff, once you've started kneading it, it will start to set. So once you've got a good amount of this stuff kneaded, you'll only have about maybe 20 minutes or so to actually work in some details and to really get it to be worked on. After that, it'll start drying and it'll be harder and harder to actually put any details into. And so obviously it makes sense to make small amounts of this stuff as you go, rather than making a huge amount of it that you're just going to end up wasting. I also thought it would be a good idea to start with the feet, well, almost start with the feet, just because that will give a bit of a heavier base for the figure to stand up on. And I figured if the figure could stand up by itself, then that would probably mean that it would be a little bit easier to do some of the modelling there. This bit's quite boring, really. That's why I sped it up. Even though I've sped it up, it's still quite boring. Boom! Subtle change of day. Yeah, I didn't make this all in one day. I did this over a couple of different evenings, over a space of a couple of weeks, to be honest. So, yeah, it's good stuff to work with. But again, like with all sort of sculpting and stuff, you can't really rush it too much. You can rush it if you want to, but it'll probably look shit. But there we go. It's all good. So here you can see me filling in the legs and doing the knees and the thighs. And even though the torso bit had dried at this point, and the feet were kind of dry as well, you can actually match wet Milliput to dry Milliput quite easily, as long as you like smooth over it with some water and like blend it in with the tools. It's really easy to add to, which is really good. And once the Milliput has dried and hardened, you can actually cut stuff off it with X-Acto knives, or you can even like sand it down with sanding paper. So you do have a lot of options for adding or removing details as you see fit. So at this point, I've got the basic setup for Bruce's legs done, and I'm just putting in stuff around the pelvis that's going to be like the basis for his shorts. So I kind of thought I would do the bottom part of him first, so I could kind of get a feel for how he's going to look. And as you can see, I've built the shorts there. I've just kind of pushed into them with the modelling clay and kind of cut in the details. So you've got the little belt buckle and the pockets and so on there. And then I wasn't sure what kind of pose to do him in, so I thought, well, I'm just going to copy the promotional artwork I did for him when he's in his crossed arms kind of stance. So I literally just kind of bent the skeleton into a rough cross-armed kind of position. As you can see, I'm just kind of building up the arms from there. The next little bit I'm working on now is actually cutting out small bits of Milliput into small tiny strips. I'm going to combine those together, and that's going to be one of his hands. So that actually, this technique kind of worked quite well. So once I had the hands in place, I then put another blob of Milliput over the top, just to kind of show the back of the hand. And from that point on, it was just a matter of smoothing it out, making sure the hands were moulded and fitting into the right place, and then just blending it all in and sticking it all together. So at this point, it's just a matter of applying more and more Milliput to the model and building up all the details, building up the bulk of the torso, and just working everything in and on top of everything that you've done so far. So at this point, it gets a little bit boring from a video perspective, even after I've sped it up quite a bit. But I'm quite proud of this model as well, so I don't want to kind of cut too much out, I guess. So with that in mind, as you watch me go ahead and put this all together, I figured I'll try and spice it up a little bit with a little bit of a game. So I figure the first game we could play is the old classic rock, paper, scissors. So we'll go on 3, yeah? You ready? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Did you win? I don't know. I don't believe you. I think I won that one. Let's try again. 1, 2, 3. Did you get me that time? Okay, I'll give you one more go. 1, 2, 3. Well, did you beat me? I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one. So, in the meantime, while we've been playing that game, you can see here I've been working on the second hand. Doing it a little differently to the first one. Instead of just building the individual fingers and then doing the back of the hand, I just cut out the vague hand shape and then kept the fingers on there and then sort of like smushed it around the arm. So, not brilliant, but again, this is my first time sculpting this kind of stuff in a very long time. So it's quite nice to sort of get the feel for it again. Oh, jeez. This bit really is quite dry, isn't it? And I'm not referring to the clay here, no, I'm actually referring to the general content and entertainment value of the video. Tell you what, as there's a little bit of dead space in the top corner there, let's spice this up with a little bit of royalty-free stock footage. Oh, hey, a lemon. That's neat. Okay, yeah. Let's see what's next. Hey, it's another lemon, only this time being sliced. Alright, cool. Okay, what have we got next? Hey, it's another lemon, this time being further sliced. Okay, I'm detecting a theme here. Oh, right, okay, more lemons. Great, fantastic. Right, okay, let's just nix the stock footage. We're not going to bother using that. I'll find some other way to entertain you. Right, so I think at this point we're about to get started on the head. Oh, no, wait, I lied. It's the... still working on the boots there. Okay. Hmm. Oh, wait a second. Hey, this is the head. Fantastic. Okay, cool. So, into the end game now. This head construction bit was a little bit finicky. Again, wasn't really sure what I was doing, so just decided to kind of build up a nice angular head bit by bit, and slowly working all the details, really. I find that Milliput's really useful when you're working with water with it to kind of smooth things down and add things to it. So that really helps you work on the sculpt. I do need a lot more practice, but again, considering this is my first real stab at using this stuff, I think it's actually not too bad to work with. The key, of course, is to make sure that you don't make loads of it, and to just be aware that once you do start sculpting with this thing, the clock is ticking, so you don't have a lot of time to really kind of waste with it, I guess. You guys still there? No? Oh, okay, fine. I'll have another game of rock, paper, scissors, only this time by myself. I'll show you. 3, 2, 1. Almost getting to the hair. That's going to be a cool bit. So making the hair for this guy is good fun. He's got a very pointy hairstyle that's supposed to be somewhat evocative of Sydney Opera House. So again, just 3 points really. Quite simple to draw in 2-dimensional terms, but to mold it in 3D is a little bit different. Well, yeah, a little bit different. Sort of like translating Sonic the Hedgehog spikes into 3D. But again, once it's all working, it actually looks quite good. And of course we've got the classic mullet back there as well. And this brings us almost to the end of that first major sculpt. The next big step after this, of course, would be to finish off the figure with some primer and then to paint it. I've not done that yet, and I don't know if I'll do a video about that, because that would literally be like watching paint dry. But here we are with the finished sculpt. I'm pretty happy with it for my first attempt. It captures the character it's supposed to quite well, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Hopefully things will get a bit better as I go on and do more of these things, but for now, that'll do.